Welcome everyone to the YouTube live series called Women in Tech, Creating an Inclusive Environment. My name is Amy Lynham and I'm a Tech University Program Specialist based in Chicago, focusing on growing tech talent here at Google. Today I'm welcomed by two Google software engineers who are going to speak about their roles, how they got started in tech, combating imposter syndrome, and what diversity and inclusiveness at Google means to them. Our chat moderators will be answering your questions via the chat window throughout the presentation, and then we'll finish off with Q&A and answer some questions from our live audience listening in. So to start, let's have our panelists introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's Heather. I'm a software engineer here in Mountain View. I've been at Google a little over 2 years now. Unfortunately, I can't disclose much about the project I'm currently working on, but I can say it's in the smart building technology space. I previously worked on data center software, which is a team that maintains and deploys different software components of our data centers.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm a software engineer on YouTube Kids, which is an app that helps kids safely and creatively engage with YouTube content. And I work in San Bruno and I've been here at Google for about a year.
Great. So to kick off, could both of you speak a little bit to what is your typical workday like?
Okay, no day's typical around here, but I'd say I'm a morning person, so I like avoiding traffic. So I usually come in around 6 a.m. and then I'll leave around 2:30 or 3. I usually have breakfast and lunch with my teammates, or sometimes I'll meet up with a friend and go out and grab lunch at a different cafe and mix things up. Pretty much every couple hours at Google is punctuated by food. So I like to spend the part of my day before lunch just really heads down, focused on writing code or researching design implementation for something I'm working on. After lunch, I might be doing any number of things depending on the day. I could collaborate with other engineers in a meeting, or most of the time we just spitball ideas at our desk. I might do some code reviews or attend a tech talk, or Google has a zillion different classes going on, so I might go to one of those. Or if I had a really productive morning, sometimes I'll just call it a day and leave early.
Awesome. And my day isn't too different. I live in San Francisco and have about a 45-minute commute, and so I'll come in, I'll get on the bus. Google has free buses from San Francisco, and so I'll get on the bus and work on the bus, arrive around 9, have some breakfast, and then head over to my desk with my team and hang out with them, code a little bit. Sometimes I'll have a meeting, we'll have a stand-up or a design review where we'll get together and we'll sort of collaborate on the designs that we have for projects we have moving forward. I'll get together with teammates for lunch, and then usually I'm coding most of the day.
Awesome. Now that we've learned a little bit more about our panelists, let's discuss the importance of women in tech. So my daughter was 10 years old when she told me she hated computers. Our current CEO of YouTube, Susan Wojcicki, stated that for someone who has spent their life working to build one of the biggest tech companies in the world, she was shocked to hear the statement from her own daughter. Sad truth is that gender stereotypes develop early, and research has shown that both boys and girls more associate boys to being better at subjects like math. Unfortunately, these attitudes are reconfirmed and expanded to other fields within science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through toys, marketing, parental attitudes, and media. Now, when we look at the story in numbers, girls start out with a love of science and technology, but by high school, less than 1% of girls study computer science. Unless we invest in education and exposure to technology early, we really risk widening the socioeconomic gap and losing valuable contributions from women in every field. So why is gender diversity in the workplace important? Because women are awesome, but if you need more evidence than that, there are a couple of things I want to point out. According to research conducted at McKinsey, companies with a higher portion of women in their top management have a better financial performance. Diversity also leads to better, more sustained innovation, and it leads to more relevant and representative products. Google has an important role to play in equipping the next generation of women with the skills required to be creators and not just consumers of technology. And at Google, we have a saying, focus on the user and all else will follow. Products will never be as great as they can be if they are only being developed from one perspective. So what can we do? First, we need to focus on expanding access to CS education for women and minorities underrepresented in the field. We have several ongoing programs here, including CS First, which provides teachers, schools, and volunteers with fun, engaging materials to lead a CS First program for 4th through 8th grade students. Our Made with Code program is an initiative inspiring teen girls to learn to code through coding projects, community resources, and more. And our Engineering Practicum is a 12-week summer software engineering internship that brings first and second year university students from diverse backgrounds to Google for real-life experience at a technology company. Lastly, our Computer Science Summer Institute, CSSI, aims to increase enrollment and retention of CS students through a collaborative CS curriculum and provides students who just finished high school a unique experience to build a network with other program participants. All these programs can be found on google.com/edu and on our career site, google.com/careers/students. Going back to our panelists, one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is, what got you interested in technology?
I guess for me, it really happened my sophomore year. I just had to take a CS class as a prereq for another class, and I loved it so much I added it as a second major.
Awesome.
My story is very similar. I had never done any computer science before my sophomore year of college and took my first class. Fell completely in love. It felt like I was doing magic. I could control a computer for the first time, and I felt like I could make it do literally anything.
Amazing. All right. So second, we are working to create an inclusive culture. Inclusion is when everyone's unique identity, background, and experiences are respected, valued, and fully integrated into how we operate. These differences improve our workplace culture, collaboration, and innovation, as well as our products and services. That means that all of us need to be aware of our own biases so that we can understand and welcome these differences. This awareness of our own biases is what we call unconscious bias. As human beings, we tend to like people who are like us, who watch the same shows, who like the same food, who have the same backgrounds. And you may also believe that women and men should be equally associated with science, but your automatic associations could show that you associate men with science more than you associate women with science. And in a study done at Harvard University looking at 900,000 test takers, 70% of respondents had implicit stereotypes associating science and tech with males more than with females. And as an employer, we want to help people come to grips with unconscious biases that they have. So we've been working on bringing unconscious bias trainings to our employees to raise awareness. We started an internal conversation in 2013 about unconscious bias, and we continue to invest in unbiasing trainings. Over half of our Googlers have participated in these workshops, and all new Googlers and managers are trained in it. Additionally, we've shared our unbiasing materials and research on our platform, Rework with Google. Now anyone from any industry can create unbiasing trainings for their team. The other thing that we want to talk about is imposter syndrome. If you're not familiar with imposter syndrome, it's a well-known psychological phenomenon, whereas an individual becomes convinced that, for example, they're somehow incapable of doing their job, do not deserve to have the job that they have, and they will inevitably be found out and fired. Even when an individual with imposter syndrome is successful, success is interpreted as just a lucky break or something that's not all that much of an achievement. In tech, the work that we do is exceptionally communal. At Google, there's not one piece of code that is pushed to production without being reviewed by another software engineer. Coding involves regular failure. If victories diminish in importance and failure looms large, it can be debilitating as a software engineer. The bottom line is, when individuals are held back, the community is held back. Addressing and talking about imposter syndrome is something that is important to our company to ensure that for anyone that is inhibited with their imposter syndrome, they can feel supported by not only their peers, but their managers as well. So going back to our panelists, have you ever felt imposter syndrome either in school or when you started working at Google? How did you address it?
I guess I faced the most when, let me go back. When I first got the offer to move out to California and work for Google, I was so excited. It felt like a dream come true. It's all I wanted. And then I told my friends and my coworkers, thinking they'd be excited for me too. But instead, some of them were. But some of them said things like, oh, you only got the job because you're a girl and companies are all trying to raise their diversity numbers. And that really stuck to hear because I'd worked so hard, and to hear them say that was like telling me that I didn't deserve this awesome thing that just happened for me. And for some crazy dumb reason, I actually believed them. And when I got to California, because I said, whatever, it's Google, it's California, I'm still going. So I got here, and I almost felt like I need to apologize to my teammates for being the subpar engineer that they got stuck with because of these diversity incentives. And it was a pretty crappy feeling. So luckily, though, Google's culture, we're super open here. There's a big emphasis on rewarding for good performance. So soon enough, I'd gone through interview training, and I got educated on the hiring process. And once I got that education, I learned that Google would never do something like make a hiring decision based on a diversity status of a candidate. So after that, and a few peer bonuses and great performance reviews, it just one day clicked. I was like, oh, I think I'm a good engineer. I think that's why I'm here. It's not because I'm a female.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I actually started feeling imposter syndrome when I was still at school. And I think part of it was that I had started late, so I didn't start really getting into my CS classes until my junior year, and so that was later than a lot of my peers. And I remember one specific day where I was sitting in a room full of engineers and CS students, and we were having a presentation. And the presenter said, how many of you are the go-to IT tech person, like you're the support person for your family and friends? And I felt like everyone around me raised their hands. And I was sitting there and I did not raise my hand. And I was like, this is not me. Like, I am not the IT go-to person. I don't really know what to do when things go wrong with my computer. And here at Google, there are people who deal with that. And no one expects me to be able to deal with that. That's not my job. My job is to code. But when I had imposter syndrome, it was this horrible feeling that I didn't belong and I would be found out for not fitting in with this idea that I had about what software engineers had to be like.
So tackling imposter syndrome and unconscious bias are just two ways we aim to create a fair and inclusive Google. We want all Googlers to feel comfortable bringing their whole selves to work. By bringing their whole selves, it creates an environment where Googlers can push innovation, be creative, and feel inspired. And our communities for women help make Google a workplace for everyone. Our Women at Google group is committed to empowering women and supporting them achieve a successful and fulfilling career. And our Google Women in Engineering group provides networking, development, and community building activities for our engineers. Like I was mentioning earlier, we as a community need more women and young girls to pursue an education in science, technology, engineering, or math. And to do this, Google is committed to not only providing programs and scholarships that women and young girls can get involved in, but we're committed to changing perceptions about computer science so that everyone can reach their goals and help change the world. To start, we also offer scholarships such as the Women Tech Makers Scholars Program, formerly known as the Google Anita Borg Memorial Scholarship, which is open to current female undergraduate or graduate students. The Generation Google Scholarship provides women with funding to pursue degrees in computer science and become active roles in their community. We support Women Tech Makers, which aims to make the tech industry more welcoming for women. And programs like Made with Code and CS First inspires millions of girls to experience the power of code and technology. And we encourage you watching to get involved in your community, learn more about our programs and scholarships, and encourage more women and young girls to pursue their love of science and technology. All of these programs and scholarships can be found on Google for Education site, google.com/edu, and on our career site, google.com/careers/students. One last question for our panelists. What advice do you have for women and young girls looking to pursue engineering?
I'd say definitely work hard, develop a good work ethic, and never expect anything to be easy. And if you want something, try really hard until you get it.
And I have sort of two pieces of advice. One is specifically related to imposter syndrome. When I was having a hard time at school with imposter syndrome, I found that mentoring and getting really involved with my department helped me a lot. It sometimes helps to realize what you know when you answer other people's questions. And then the other piece of advice that I have is to really do what you love. When I was in school, I had a lot of people telling me, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that if you want to work at Google, if you want to work at a great company. And what I did was just do what I loved instead. And I'm here, and I've seen it work for a lot of people. So I would say, don't listen to people who are telling you need to do anything in particular. Just do what you like.
It all works out.
Yeah.
Awesome. And with that, let's take some questions from our audience. All right, so the first question is from Andrea. What recommendations would you have for young women in an older male group? So I think, in terms of, like what we were saying before, every perspective, every viewpoint, every experience is so important to our products. If we look at our products from one perspective, our products are not going to be working for everyone. So I would say, for any young woman working in an older male group, just remember that your perspective is important because it's important to the product or the service that you're providing for everyone. So just, think about that in that case.
One thing that's worked for me, because I know sometimes at like those lunchtime, conversations, you can kind of feel like you don't fit in when you don't have a wife and kids to talk about. So one thing that worked well for me in the past was just finding that common interest. It was just a game that me and a couple of the other guys on the team played on our phones. And then we talked about that, and all of a sudden we had this thing in common, and it really brought us together and made us better as a team.
Definitely. All right, next question is, how did you decide to apply at Google? How did you know that you were ready?
I didn't apply. Google reached out to me. Luckily, LinkedIn, very good to have because that's how they found me. They found me, my profile on LinkedIn, and I had applied to Google in the past. They knew I was interested, so those two pieces together that they reached out to me and then went for it, studied a lot from there.
I also actually had applied previously before, and I had applied for an internship and never heard back. But then when it came time for me to graduate from college, I was reached out to by a recruiter and went forward with the process at that point.
Yeah, I would say, if you don't hear from Google the first time, doesn't mean that you don't have a shot at Google. I would say always apply again because you never know. All right, so next question is, for the engineering practicum internship that we mentioned earlier, if they're not holding an internship near my hometown, is there a way I could live in a place up near where they're holding the internship? So we do help give relocation bonuses to all intern students, both EP and software engineering intern candidates, to help with housing costs. So intern candidates can receive this bonus before they start their internship. This is coupled with your salary that can be used to help pay for housing costs during your 12 to 14 week internship.
It's fun to go somewhere that's not my home. You get to explore somewhere new. Most
Absolutely.
opportunities are out here in California, and it's beautiful here.
Definitely. All right, we have another question. What's the most challenging thing or obstacle you have faced as a woman in tech during your career so far? And what did you do to overcome it? Well, I think imposter syndrome is definitely one.
It's a tough
well.
question.
I think imposter syndrome was probably the hardest for me. When I was in school and when I came to Google, everyone was very supportive, and so it was just me holding myself back and sort of thinking that I wasn't capable of the things that I really could do very well.
It's amazing once you start realizing that you're good enough, you all of a sudden realize that no one else was ever thinking that you weren't.
So we have another question around do what you love, around your passions. And we have one particular student who's asking about UX design, which is something that they love. What skills do I need to develop so that I'm doing what I love and catering myself to work there? I would say, for anything that you're passionate about, continue to explore that. I think a lot of times, engineers and Googlers or students who are interested in joining Google will try to get involved in everything versus, really focusing on, certain projects that they feel really passionate about. So I would say continue to network, continue to speak with other people who might be in the field that you're interested in, and just continue to grow and develop from there. I don't know.
Yeah, projects are the best thing to do, really. It's with UX type stuff, it's really easy. You can make a website, that's super visible, and then you can put that link right on your resume. There's also, I always suggest, like, apps are really great to make. Just do a lot of projects and start small. Finishing your first project is really important. Get that on your resume, and then try to build from there.
Absolutely. All right, I think that's all the questions that we have today. Thank you so much again for listening in, and have a great day.